you are responsible for if you fail to act.
I call the Assistant Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, it's a great privilege to be able to speak on this motion moved by the member for McMahon. We've had some political run-ins in the past where, for instance, he spent a lot of time trying to shove Australian retirees down the financial stairs of the nation, and it's good to know that there has been no change in his demeanour. Before the last election, he was the man out there spruiking with his wondrous ideas how he would cut down the incomes and shove people under the poverty line of Australian retirees. And now he simply wants to reimpose that ambition around the energy prices of the nation and turn around to the nation's pensioners and say, I've got a solution for you. The solution is to make sure they pay more for their electricity so they can't live in comfort and in the warmth in winter. That is the foundation of Labor's policy related to climate change. It is not one that is anchored in what will do improvement to the environment. It is not one that will take the Australian community with us. It is not one, as the minister will attest, that actually acknowledges, understands, appreciates or even considers or listens to the challenges of people in regional Australia and the impacts it will have on them. Their solution is a tax, like so many other ones. And I know the member for McMahon can't look at me straight when I talk about this because he knows his legacy and he's taking his solution to his old portfolio that he failed in and now imposing on his new portfolio because they have no other ideas. And the foundation of the coalition position related to climate change at every step is what we need to get our emissions down while utilising and harnessing the power of technology. And that's what you've seen. That's what we took to the last election. It wasn't something we've made up willy-nilly as we've sat in this term. It's been a consistent theme. How do we empower Australians? How do we empower businesses? And how do we empower the nation to harness the opportunity of technology to drive down emissions? And we've seen the results. We've seen the results. 20% off 2005 emissions for Australia so far, and we continue to drive them down. And of course, we're now having a very important conversation about what we need to do to set long-term targets to make sure that Australians, all Australians, have the opportunity to be part of that conversation. And we've seen the translation of our practical plan in investing in the future of renewables. $35 billion has been invested in renewables. I see this every day in the wonderful Goldstein electorate. You just go and look at it. In 2017, there were 2,700-odd solar PV cells on homes in the Goldstein electorate. It's now nearly 9,000 in the Goldstein electorate throughout the coalition government. And as the minister made the remark when he was up at the dispatch box before me, at every point not only has the coalition government focused on what it can do to empower technology, but we have used the legislative instruments available to us to broaden the mandate, to increase the opportunity that we see to make sure that people can use the technology and the government agencies can invest in the technology that Australian businesses and Australians need. And what we've seen consistently from those opposite is they have blocked every attempt that we have made to do so. Whether it is ARENA investing in charging stations, whether it's ARENA investing in carbon capture and storage, a technology that the IPCC's own modelling says will be necessary to hit long-term targets, that the International Energy Agency has mapped out in its net zero plan. But Labor doesn't want to have a bar of it because it gets in the way of their one objective, which is the reintroduction of the carbon tax. You know, Deputy Speaker, when I was coming up to the dispatch box, I had to check the date because it seems like they want to resurrect the carbon tax from the past. And it isn't Halloween yet, but we're certainly getting a fair degree of trick or treat. And we all remember the promise that was made by the former Prime Minister Julia Gillard in the lead-up to the 2010 election, where she said one thing before the election until she did a sweetheart deal with the Greens and brought in a carbon tax and imposed it on the Australian community. And that's the fundamental problem, is there is no respect for democracy from our political opponents and those sit on the other side of the chamber. We took a policy to the last election and it was endorsed by the Australian people. And we've seen this not just in the Labor Party but in the independent member for Warringah, who literally wanted to introduce legislation that would give people, give appointed officials a veto power over this parliament and its capacity to be able to decide our legislative agenda and how we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We stand for democracy, we stand for technology, and we stand by the Australian people.
Call